Is AI narrative actually dead? Should you sell all your AI tokens and rotate into the next shiny object narrative to position yourself properly? Remember I was telling you about NQAI and Purple AI and actually posting videos about them before they pumped. I'm actually happy I have a position on this thing currently. I think it's around 10k at this level, so it's 7 million market cap in terms of the funds that I have. Maybe it would run to 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. We will see. If this thing would find product market fit, I definitely see that this is possible because the narrative for this thing is crazy. So last but not least, Purple AI. People that position themselves properly in these narratives and in these projects were able to do 5x, 10x's, 20x's, 60x's on the money. And the key was to position yourself before the hype of the narrative. The key is to buy before each and every influencer will do an AI video and it will get crazy views. That's actually a great top signal as well. If you see large influencers publishing AI videos and these AI videos getting crazy views. You have to understand where liquidity is coming from and where it's coming next. The key is to position yourself before the next narrative, pumping as a new shiny object. Closest thing we have to it is Bitcoin ecosystem, and specifically Bitcoin projects that are connected to Ethereum. Why? Because we have Ethereum ETF narrative, this global trade, and Ethereum tokens are already doing very well and they will continue doing so. What about gaming, you might ask? I do think it might be doing quite well quite soon. I just do think that it might take a bit more time, speaking about low caps specifically. And I will also give you a gaming pick to position yourself properly. This channel is actually about making money in crypto, not farming views. You need to position yourself properly before the next narrative will hit up. I will provide you with a list of the narratives. I will provide you with the tokens that are pumping up currently. I will provide you with other tokens that will probably pumping up next. And we will do a deep dive in what exactly is happening on the marketplace currently and what's going to happen next. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's start. These are the top performing narratives of this cycle. AI, gaming, Bitcoin ecosystem along with Bitcoin DeFi and meme coins, and short-term narrative Ethereum. And I still think Ethereum will be doing very well. The question you might have, is AI actually dead at this stage? Should you take some profits on your AI tokens, or should you basically just wait and hold? I can tell you that no one knows the future. I just see several top signals that I would like to share. I'm not planning to exit my positions fully. The thing that I might do is just take a bit of profit from them and rotate in other narratives that I think might be doing well quite soon. You have to play this rotating game to a certain extent even if you don't want to, because this is how this market works. It's PvP currently. Liquidity just flows from one narrative to another, to the third one, and it's going to be like that for quite some time until we will reach a new all-time high for Bitcoin. This is how the market looks right now, and these are the type of players that are actually playing the market right now. Doesn't take profit, just rotates. I'm rotating. Always has to be in trade. Quick to X, I'll rotate the profits into other bags into a different narrative. Has never held a stable coin longer than 10 minutes. Sell my winners and add to my losers. Our goal is actually take some profits from narratives that you were positioned in before, because you understand that we might be close to the local top of this narrative and liquidity will eventually just go into the next thing, and then if we would actually do everything right, we'll be able to multiply these profits in other narratives as well. First things first, let's do a bit of analysis, trying to understand if we are actually at the top for AI tokens or if they still have some room to grow. You need to understand where liquidity is coming from into the market. Who were the players that entered the market recently and essentially added a bit more liquidity into the whole thing? I don't think it's retail. I don't think these are VCs or institutions. And even if they entered, they probably mostly entered BTC. People that pumped AI tokens recently are people who basically came back into the crypto. They probably know some things about crypto, and them just seeing Bitcoin at 50K recovered the interest. Therefore, they came back into the market and they positioned themselves in hot narratives. One of the main metrics that we would actually use in order to figure out if AI narrative is at the top is YouTube, of course. YouTube is this platform that basically gets alpha the latest, because it's very easy to just watch videos on YouTube of some influencers. You don't have to do anything. You're being provided with the tokens right away. And it's definitely the place where alpha meets market players the last. Obviously, if you're watching smaller channels that are focused on certain niches, that might be a great source of alpha as well. I basically just searched AI coins, and what I see, 66,000 views, 120,000 views, 7K, 5K, 5K, 18K, 6K, 4K, 6K, 130K views, 33K views as well. And most of these videos, they're actually quite recent. This is the best top signal that you may have for a category, for a narrative. It's very important to understand these things. That's just one red flag. That's just one thing that we might be thinking on, right? Let's check out other things. Here is the chart of render. I would say it absolutely topped at this stage. It's just crazy right now. And it's very interesting that all of the charts of AI tokens, despite the AI tokens, they all basically look the same. NQ AI as well, Purple AI as well. That's why it's actually very important to understand that if you're buying the token in the right narrative, most likely it will surge and most likely you will make money. Therefore, it's way more important to actually understand right narratives and what people in these narratives would be focusing on. Then, in some cases, try to figure out these like best projects and things like that. First, it's the narrative. Secondly, the projects that you think people would essentially be buying into the most in any specific narrative. Now, I'm not saying that AI tokens are dead at all. I do think they're going to be one of the best performing narrative this cycle. I do think that even if you would be buying at these levels, and if you're ready to sit in the upcoming correction, you will do very well in a year from now. You would say thank you to yourself that you actually bought into these tokens. I'm speaking more about the short term. And short term, it kind of seems to me that we might be at the top at this stage for AI tokens. We have to understand what's going to happen next. And the thing that is going to happen next is the liquidity rotation in the next shiny object. We are close to the top, but other narratives, they just start to move at this stage. And some of them, they are already hinting to us if they're actually going to perform or not. And I will give you a couple of them, and I will give you projects to enter as well. One of the bullish things I wanted to talk about is also 100 million investment from Andreessen Horowitz into Agent Layer, which is a liquid staking platform on Ethereum, which is quite nice by itself because it definitely shows a longer term view. It definitely shows that Andreessen Horowitz expects the bull market. It's actually a very bullish news long term overall in the market. We are more confident at this stage after this investment that we actually would be seeing a bull market and that we actually would be seeing a crazy alt season this year as well. That's a very important thing to understand. And it's also interesting that this investment was also done in Ethereum ecosystem. We do understand that Ethereum is going to perform short term due to the news about Ethereum ETF, and we do understand that most likely Ethereum will perform very well this year as well. Let's actually start with Ethereum narrative and Ethereum ecosystem. Bullish factors are that we're obviously having this Ethereum ETF news. Despite the fact it's going to be approved or not approved, although we have a very nice chance of Ethereum ETF actually being approved, just because of the fact we have Ethereum futures ETF opened at this stage, and if SEC won't approve Ethereum spot ETF, they will probably get sued. So if even they won't be approving it currently, they will probably approving it sometime into the future, maybe even just later this year or early next one. But this is still a very bullish event for Ethereum. We have Bitcoin halving in April as well, which should surge the market up, and that's why we have Bitcoin ecosystem narrative as well, which is very crazy by itself. But right now we are focusing on Ethereum. Here is a Twitter post from OKX. We can see here Dogecoin, and we can also see PEPE here, and we can also see Bitcoin. it might actually mean nothing as well, because it might be just the content for the subscribers and things like that. But there are rumors going around that PEPE should be launched on Coinbase on 29th of February. I don't know if it's true. These are just rumors, but I have some other things, very, very interesting things to share as well. This is Wintermute market maker. These are the holdings last month, 21st of January, and these are the holdings currently. Do you see something interesting here? We only see 700,000 PEPE here, and here we have 4.4 million in PEPE at this stage. Obviously, we also have a difference in price, right? But it was not 5x, it was not 6x as well. Did you actually see $3 million buys for PEPE? I didn't see it. And the main reason for that is because if we would actually see someone buying $3 million worth of PEPE from the market, it would just pump the price like crazy. So you might have a question, how the market maker, one of the best ones on the market, Wintermute, actually acquired $3 million worth of PEPE? I might have a response. Project founding team, when they're signing a contract with the market maker, they send certain amount of money to the market maker in the tokens of the project. The goal of the market maker is to make money for the founding team of the project. There are several different types of contracts that they have, but the basic thing is that the contract is usually being signed for a year, and often in these contracts, market maker basically takes responsibility that he has to return certain amount of tokens in a year from now. It's either an amount of tokens or it's either certain value in dollars connected to the amount that he received from the project initially. Therefore, for market makers, in order to do that, they are pumping the price in the process over the course of the year. They're taking some profits to themselves here and there, and then they still have enough to return to the founding team of the project as well. This is usually how they work. But maybe Wintermute just bought the tokens themselves. Maybe they just want to hold them and they're not market maker for the project, right? I do have something to show on this matter as well. If you can see here, this is PEPE token, and these are transactions for PEPE, specifically larger than $100,000. Everything that we see here is Wintermute sending tokens from one exchange to another, from Uniswap to the exchange, and these are transactions that are very, very recent at this stage. This basically proves that they are market making for the token. They are making sure that the liquidity is provided on different exchanges and that the price on the different exchanges is actually equal and there is no spread between different exchanges. So what do we have as a sum up? We have Ethereum ETF. We have largest meme on Ethereum that everyone knows about, that everyone actually holds, like a lot of influencers, a lot of whales in this space, they do hold PEPE because they do understand the potential. This meme has 15 to 20 years history of internet culture. All the retail, they actually know this meme as well. And we have the addition of the market maker recently in the last months, actually market making this token. The token was also recently added into the Robinhood app, and there are active rumors going around about PEPE actually being added into the Coinbase. If this is going to happen, we will just surge. We will just run like crazy. I do think right now is actually a very nice time to loan PEPE. Enter a conservative loan, close it in a year from now, and say, thank you, Stan, you made me so much freaking money. I know I might be focusing on meme coins too much, but I do believe this thing will do very, very well. If you're not into meme coins, if you're a serious investor, if you don't want to buy the pictures of frogs, after me actually showing you tier 1 market maker actually market making on this token, and they actually have around $500 million, I think, under the assets that they actually market making with, and probably billions in the assets that they're trading with on the market. I still would like to provide you with some fundamental plays that you can actually make money with in connection to this Ethereum ETF trade. A lot of people are saying that layer 2s should be doing very, very well with Ethereum surging, and it's very, very simple thought to understand because they were surging closer to October and November when Ethereum was growing as well. We definitely spent quite some time in terms of Ethereum layer 2s actually surging up, and we saw quite nice numbers on IMAX as well, which is second Ethereum layer 2 at this stage, closely connected to gaming. I would like to provide you with several plays on how you can actually leverage that. And I would actually want to provide you with not a fish, but I would want to teach you how to fish. I think it's way more valuable, but on top of that, I will be providing you with several picks as well. Here's DeFi Llama. On this website, you have the overview of different blockchains and different protocols that are on these blockchains, and total value locked of these protocols as well. We can pick Arbitrum in the first place and check out what are the projects that actually Arbitrum has. We would want to focus on the projects that are specifically connected to this blockchain. Therefore, you would want to see here one chain. 2 chains is probably nice as well, but if you have something like this with 12 chains, that would mean that this protocol is not native to the chain. Therefore, with this main blockchain project surging up in price, you would probably not be making any money on it. For Arbitrum, we have GMAX, which is a decentralized exchange to actually trade, and we have Camelot, which is also a decentralized exchange for spot trading, and this one is for trade with leverage. You can go down, you can check out some other things, but at the same time you need to understand the total value locked. You need to see that you, for example, have things like Volatile with 33 million in total value locked, which is a yield protocol on Arbitrum. You might actually want to open it up, check out what's happening, check out what was happening with TVL, and then see if actually this project has its own token already. We can see that it was consolidating for quite some time. It was surging up in December, along with Arbitrum surging up as well. It's only 2.7 million market cap, and the total value locked is $30 million at this stage. I think it actually might be doing quite nicely, closer to the pump of Arbitrum due to Ethereum pumping up as well, and Ethereum Dinkan update that should improve things very much for all the layer 2s. It's quite interesting to see that it's the largest native yield protocol on Arbitrum. It's a very basic analysis at this stage, but the things I would do next, I would probably go on Arkham. I would check out who are the top holders. I would check out what is happening with the project as well. I would check out if the project actually have a market maker. We can see that 24 hours trading volume is only $60,000, so probably it doesn't have a market maker. I would also check out the socials. I would check out the Twitter. I would go on the Discord. I would try to talk with the team on the project, trying to get some alpha on the things that are happening with this protocol. And obviously, I would want to check out the solution myself. I will connect some of my wallets, check out how it works, what actually is happening. I would also want to check out the vesting schedule, because at this stage, it's $15 million, so it's 7x larger than the current market cap. And based on all this information, and based on me assuming that Arbitrum as a narrative in connection to Ethereum Layer 2 will surge in upcoming months, I will be making a decision whether or not I would essentially want to put some money into this token. Interesting thing that you also would want to do with layer 2s on Ethereum, the ones that you would think will surge the most like Arbitrum and Optimism, is also try to loan main tokens of the ecosystem. Loan Arbitrum and loan Optimist, just because of the fact that we assume that these things should surge up based on the narrative of Ethereum ETF trade. Speaking of other things on Arbitrum, we can also see Camelot, which is a native DEX on Arbitrum, with TVL slightly increasing over the last months, plus 20%. We can also see that we have Silo Finance here, which is a lending protocol with slight growing TVL as well. But the things that I like about Silo Finance is actually this chart. This looks very bullish to me. Fully diluted is 3 times larger than current market cap, which is not that bad. And the market cap of the whole thing is $15 million at this stage. We do see that the trading volumes is very low. It's only 7 million at this stage. So from one point of view, you might say that this project is actually dead. From another point of view, you might say that you are early. And if you believe in these things, if you believe that we will have this narrative and these things will surge up, it might be a nice entry as well. Camelot, obviously, 35 million market cap. Chart looks quite bullish as well. We've been consolidating and correcting for quite some time. We are basically at the levels of May of 2023. It was not surging up in the recent pump of Arbitrum. It was not surging up largely, I would say. It's basically 2.5, almost 3x from the bottoms. But it's definitely a DEX that is being used a lot in Arbitrum. I actually was using this DEX myself as well. And we can see that the 24 hours trading volume for this token specifically is 1.4 million at this stage, which is not that good and not that bad at the same time. So this might be an interesting pick as well in terms of checking out, in terms of understanding Ethereum ETF narrative and longing largest tokens in the ecosystem, which is Arbitrum and Optimism, and essentially getting into some of these plays. You would also might want to buy a meme coins on this chain, but I would probably just focus on protocols just because of the fact that Arbitrum and Optimism are not very friendly to meme coin space. So that's pretty much it in terms of my plays on how you can leverage Ethereum ETF trade. You might spend some time researching on DeFi Llama, checking out different protocols in Ethereum layer 2s, and actually making a decision on whether or not you would want to enter certain projects after research, after being on the Discord, after being on Twitter, after actually checking out what is happening with this project, and on Arkham as well, understanding who are the whales, what are they doing, are they buying more at this stage actually, and the charts of these things look quite bullish because we are just in long accumulation, which is very interesting. And obviously PEPE as the largest meme token on Ethereum. Once Ethereum will surge, when it will go sideways, once a bunch of people will be making a bunch of money on all the different layer 2s and protocols, they will be throwing the money into PEPE, especially if we will have Coinbase launch anytime soon. But anyway, I think this is the event that should be happening anyway. I do think we are at a very interesting point to long PEPE as well. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about is Bitcoin ecosystem. We recently had an inflow of new liquidity in node monkeys. They basically surged in price from 0.15 to 0.4. That's millions in new liquidity that basically surged into this ecosystem. And I think it actually surged after the pump in Ethereum because a lot of people who are buying into these things, they are Ethereum whales. They're people that made a bunch of money in the last cycle. I do see this NFT collection, as mentioned yesterday, doing very well in the full bull cycle as well. But we do have to understand that people that are buying into this collection, they are giving the liquidity to the holders of the collection. And holders of this thing that sold their node frogs just recently, they are redistributing the liquidity in other different things in Bitcoin ecosystem. And it's very interesting to understand, and it's very interesting to see that right now this liquidity is being redistributed into the projects in Bitcoin ecosystem that are connected to Ethereum. And one of the main reasons for that is because OG Bitcoin people, they are not actually participating in this pump because they have all of the assets staked on Merlin chain and locked, right? So due to this fact, due to node monkey surging, we basically had a crazy surge in Bitcoin puppets as well. 0.084 BTC yesterday, right now already 0.14. So it's almost a 2x. We do see Bitcoin frog surging up a bit as well. And it's kind of interesting how the dynamic changed because back during December pump, Bitcoin frogs, they were the first point of inflow of liquidity in the first place. Right now it were node monkeys, probably because of the fact that a lot of people from Ethereum are entering, because they recently had a surge in Ethereum price, therefore they're looking to distribute the Ethereum profits. We do also have things like quantum cats surging up, but I'm essentially not an NFT trader. I do like to buy tokens because I do like the fact that they are not locking up the liquidity. And one of these interesting examples of BTC ecosystem token, but actually on Ethereum, which probably means that it was created by Ethereum people as well, is OrdiSwap token. And we see the surge of this token with inflows from people buying node frogs. So we do understand that all these guys that sold node frogs recently, who are Ethereum people as well, they basically put their money into OrdiSwap, and that's why OrdiSwap started to grow as well. I do have some information about the market maker of OrdiSwap, which is DWF Labs. Russian guys in the first place, tier 1 market maker actually for larger projects in the first place. And during this video, I will be providing similar type of project to you that they're also market making, that I do expect to surge after OrdiSwap would essentially find its top and people would start to redistribute liquidity into other things as well. That's a classic example of liquidity flow that I'm showing you here basically, because people made money on Ethereum. Just understand what is happening here. Bitcoin ecosystem OGs who were sitting in ordinals closer to December that made a bunch of money. They actually used this money to buy Bitcoin frogs. Then there was a launch of node frogs. A bunch of Ethereum people were invited and they bought node frogs. It's basically an NFT for Ethereum people in the first place. Then we went on the correction into the space because liquidity rotated in other things like AI, for example. At the same time, after approval of Bitcoin ETF, which essentially was sell and use event, if you were following the market and you saw this fake approval from Gary Gensler and SEC approving the Bitcoin ETF one day before and then deleting the tweet, we basically saw that once this was approved, BTC started to dump and Ethereum started to pump. So it was a hint that the market would actually be focusing on Ethereum trade right after BTC ETF will get approved, which is very, very interesting. What happened next? We had this sellout. we had a correction, and after it, Ethereum started to surge because people anticipate the price of Ethereum to go up in connection with Ethereum ETF trade that will essentially happen closer to the May of this year. But people are already buying Ethereum, trying to position themselves early. And then people from node monkeys who are Ethereum whales, they made a bunch of money on Ethereum surging from $2,000 to $3,000 recently, and they used this Ethereum to attract their friends and people they know to buy more into node monkeys. This way, initial holders of node monkeys were able to unlock their liquidity because they just sold the node monkeys, right? And they used this money to put them into highly manipulated projects in connection with Bitcoin ecosystem and Ethereum because they are Ethereum people in the first place. And OrdiSwap is the first project like this. OG Bitcoin people, they don't like this project much because it's on Ethereum in the first place. Like, you don't need like Unisat to buy these tokens. You don't need to understand all of this user experience. At the same time, it's quite easy for people on the market because of it to actually be getting into this token. And I do have a market maker, DVF Labs. I hope you understand all of this liquidity flow and you need to understand what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next is these people who basically just sold the node monkeys and these people who positioned themselves early in OrdiSwap as well, they would be taking the profits and putting them into other things and other projects in the market because it's a PvP harsh type of scenario right now. And the second project that has the same market maker that I wanted to show you is Bitcoin Cats. It's kind of like a meme coin, but the fact that it has the same market maker, the fact that you see that the contract is also on Ethereum, the fact that you see is that 24-hour trading volume is basically 8 million, which definitely proves that they have a market maker working on this project. I do believe that once we would find the top on OrdiSwap, essentially these players, these people would be redistributing their liquidity into Bitcoin Cats. And I actually just entered Bitcoin Cats spot position yesterday. I don't care much about the token. I don't care much about the project. I'm just following the narratives and I'm following the liquidity. And this is my bet in terms of me front running the next thing that would essentially have liquidity flowing in. And if we would see this chart, it's actually something that is happening already. This chart is quite bullish. It kind of like forms cup, and maybe after that we would have a handle and then we will surge up. But if this chart is forming a cup, we would still see at least from 2 to 2.5x. The project launched, it went down, it was consolidating, correcting, and right now it's going back up. And with everything that I just told you in terms of the liquidity flow, in terms of the node monkeys Ethereum people, in terms of the same market maker as OrdiSwap, I do think that this thing will be doing very, very well in upcoming several weeks. I do expect a 2x. I will be taking my initials out after my 2x and probably will be looking to rotate my liquidity somewhere else as well, where I would think that the liquidity is essentially going to appear next. And then we're coming to the narrative number 3, which is gaming. We have AI, we have Bitcoin ecosystem, we have gaming, and obviously we have Ethereum as well. So we do have to understand that things that are connected with Ethereum and gaming should be doing very, very well because we have this Ethereum ETF trade and we had a huge correction on gaming and it's kind of been recovering recently as well. And that's exactly something that we see on IMX. It was surging up in December. After Bitcoin ETF, it went down as everything on the marketplace. And after that, it's surging up because it's basically an Ethereum layer 2. It's second largest Ethereum layer 2 that's connected to gaming, which is very, very bullish from my point of view because people would essentially see Matic, they would see Immutable X, and only then they would be seeing Arbitrum and Optimism and things like that. And all this liquidity from people buying into this thing, it will eventually be redistributed into gaming as well because people understand that Immutable X is a gaming token in the first place. And within these liquidity rotations, it's always great to understand who is the copy of your token that are doing kind of the same thing in the similar narrative as a first candidate to receive liquidity from the original token. So we can basically have IMX as like grandfather, right? Then we may have Beam as a granddad. And after Beam and IMX, we will have some sort of father and some sort of son, tokens with larger market caps, but pretty much trying to do the same thing because it will help us to understand that if liquidity just hit grandfather, people who were positioned before, they will take some of the profits and they will rotate these profits into similar plays, into similar narratives to multiply on their profits as well. That's why it's very, very interesting, and that's why it's very, very important to actually know the market, know the projects, and be able to find these connections in the space. And here is what I'm offering and what I'm thinking from my end. We do have IMX, which is a grandpa, which is essentially the token that is taking liquidity the first in the niche. It's also Ethereum layer 2 solution, therefore it will be getting in a bunch of liquidity in connection with the Ethereum ETF trade. Then from IMX, things will probably go to BEAM. BEAM is also an Ethereum token, despite the fact they have their own blockchain and they have their own ecosystem, and they actually have partnership with IMX and with Matic as well. They're quite similar in the things that they're doing to IMX. That's why we can say that IMX is great grandpa and BEAM is actually a grandpa. After that, liquidity would essentially flow to projects like Miria. And Miria you can see as a father, right? Because it also doing similar things to BEAM and IMX. It's just lower market cap, maybe they're focusing on some different things, but it's all the same from the point of view of what actually the project is doing for the ecosystem and what is the utility of the project. It's quite similar to BEAM and IMX. And then from Miria, we will have liquidity flow to the things like Playable, because they're also quite similar. And you have IMX with largest amount of market cap, then you have BEAM, then you have Miria, then you have Playable. What's interesting to do in this case is basically to position yourself before IMX would be run. Because frankly speaking, it was quite easy to understand that IMX will probably run, because we saw that Ethereum was running right away after Bitcoin ETF sell the news event. And we could have had an option to position ourselves early in IMX, right? At the same time, and the lows, you could have just long IMX as well, because the market cap is quite large. Therefore, to get a nice position in IMX, you would need more liquidity as well. Then we basically have a surge in IMX. We take some of the profits and we rotate them into BEAM, or we're also entering a long position on BEAM. BEAM surging up, we take some profits, we rotate into Miria, and after that, we rotate into Playable. One of the alpha plays to basically do here is to skip all this line and basically just rotate all the profits into Playable right away from IMX, or even just not be putting any money into IMX, just buy Playable in the first place. Because this way, if you are sitting here from the beginning, you will be getting each and every liquidity inflow from all the profits from all these tokens eventually. But I would say that the best strategy most likely is to long largest token and enter Playable position, and then from the loan of this token of IMX actually be added to your Playable position, which is the sun in this chain, right? And be opening longs on BEAM and be opening longs on Miria as well from the profits of your loan of IMX. The key in the current player versus player scenario is to understand liquidity flow and actually position yourself before this liquidity will come in, before other players will understand these things and they would essentially follow you. If you are staying before the liquidity, if you're positioned nicely before the liquidity in PEPE scenario, you would also make a bunch of money. One of the risks and one of the issues that you might have is that when you're opening long positions, you actually have a chance to get liquidated. So you can actually lose your capital. And if you would zoom out, if you would check the time frame a year from now, just buying things like Playable or Miria, it is going to do very, very well for you. And the worst thing that you can basically do in the bull market is lose your liquidity. Get liquidated, put your money into some scam project and things like that, have your wallet drained. That's basically the worst thing in the bull market as well. I just wanted to show here this liquidity rotation game, how this is being played in the current PEPE scenario. I'm playing it myself for a bit. I'm playing it myself for a certain portion of my portfolio, and I will probably be increasing this amount as well, because anyway, I'm just always inside the market, and anyway, I'm just always following what exactly is happening, and I just wanted to provide you with this information as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you like the content. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm responding to each and every comment under my YouTube videos, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.